Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of She Plays Games. I'm your host, Lauren, and in today's episode, I'm talking with Sarah Lynn. Sarah Lynn is currently a producer at Firaxis Games, and she's worked on numerous titles, including Civilisation VI. Prior to working as a producer, Sarah spent a lot of time working in QA, but also she's worked in marketing too, and to try and inspire the next generation, she now hosts talks at all-girls schools where she helps kids to understand more about the roles that people take when developing video games. I really hope you enjoy her story, and if you like what I do and want me to continue, please remember to subscribe to She Plays Games so that you never miss an episode. This is episode 7 of She Plays Games. Welcome, Sarah Lynn. Thank you so much for coming on our show.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So I think the best place to start is with your most recent credit, Civilization VI. Yes. So what was it like to work as the associate producer on the latest installment in a franchise that has just like such a huge following and is just such a critical darling? Like, what is it like to take on that?
Well, it was extremely daunting, to be honest. But it was actually, I think, the greatest learning opportunity for me coming into production from QA. It was a very senior team. Like, everyone knew kind of how to create this type of game. A lot of them had been on since previous iterations of the franchise. So for me coming in as an associate producer, they were showing me the ropes a lot. And, you know, Civ developers are just extremely passionate and very excited, and like they got me very excited about it too.
Oh, I mean, Civilization, it's been around for a hot minute, hasn't it?
Yeah.
So were you like big into the game before you sort of went into it?
So I had played a little bit before I came to Firaxis. I had played a little bit of Civ Rev. And a little bit of Civ 5. But I was more of a real-time strategy fan than turn-based strategy. So I definitely, actually, while I was in QA, I learned a lot about how to play it, and that was when it really clicked for me, and I got it.
That's like one of the cool things that you don't really think about is that in QA, you actually, you get to learn different types of games, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
You're kind of forced to.
Yeah, it was actually, I didn't even really understand there were different ways to play it and win it. And the first time, like, I understood, okay, I can go for a cultural victory and, like, just bring my culture and my blue jeans to the world. Wow, okay, that's cool. And, the Civ QA lead at the time, he kind of just taught me everything that I knew about Civ 5. And that kind of just helped it click with me, and then got onto Civilization VI and like really got into it.
Oh, it's so cool. I mean, it's such an expansive experience. Like I can't even, so I was like really big into simulation games. Like, you know, I grew up with like SimCity and that type of stuff, but like I never actually like got to touch a Civilization game. I don't know why. It's just one of those things where I just, you just kind of like run alongside it. But it does sound like really, really, really cool. I think I was probably more like you with the real-time strategy. Like which games were sort of your faves growing up?
So I loved Rise of Nations.
Okay.
That one was one of my favorites. I put a lot of hours into that. But before that, I was really into the simulation games, like the Tycoon games and City Builders, SimCity, of course, and those guys.
So this is kind of like two questions, but I know that you primarily started working as QA, and that was a big focus earlier in your career. Did you find it difficult to take the leap from QA through to marketing to where you are now in production?
I kind of wish that everyone got a chance to spend some time in QA, to be honest, because it really gives you like a good overview of all of the different disciplines and how they work together. So in that way, I think it worked as a really good foundation for me just to understand, okay, this kind of bug that I found, who is the person that I need to talk to about it? Okay, it's one of these engineers on the gameplay side. How does that fit into the whole process? What are the different parts that are working together? So it kind of, I think, prepared me really well for moving into production. So I moved from, I have a weird journey. I moved from QA into the associate producer position at Firaxis. I did that for a bit for Civilization VI. And then I moved into marketing. And then I moved back into production, I guess, about a year ago. So it's, I guess, a little bit weird. I think I may have had the most job titles at Firaxis of the people that are currently there.
But I guess that's the thing. Like you're kind of, do you feel like a lot of the times you go where you're needed?
I kind of go where like it calls to me.
Yeah.
Like I kind of moved into marketing when I was doing all of the marketing stuff as part of my producer position. And I was like, oh, maybe this is a thing that I would really enjoy. But, it turned out it wasn't for me. And we ended up having another producer position open up. So I applied for that. And I interviewed with my old bosses, which was kind of weird, but,
Yeah.
You go through the process.
But that's nice that they've been open to that, though.
Yeah, I'm really grateful just that I've had a chance to follow my heart and learn all of these new things here. It's really been, I think, useful, especially as a producer where you wear so many different hats, to have all that different context and really understand it.
And also, I mean, you have another role which you neglected to say is voice acting. Like you've lent some of your voice talents to some of the games as well as promotional materials. So was that planned, or was that just something that just kind of happened?
No, that was something that just happened, actually. When we were first promoting or first talking about the promotion ideas for Civilization VI, we thought of doing these first look videos for all of the leaders, because that's the heart of the game. That's what people get really excited about. And we were trying to figure out how we would do that. And the marketing folks at the time came to me and they were like, hey, you sound excitable. Would you be interested in doing this voice thing and just doing these videos? And I didn't realize at the time how many foreign language words I would have to learn and say in front of thousands, millions of people.
That's just crazy.
Yeah, but it actually, it was really fun. I didn't really know what I was doing. I just kind of went in the booth and they're like, okay, here's your script. Read it and sound excited. It's like, okay, in Sid Meier's Civilization VI.
No. Well, you sound great. Like I watched some of the clips and it really sounds, I don't know how, to get the in right intonation or whatever it is, I can't. Yeah. Words aren't working. The right inflection with different languages, that must have been so hard.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of, I guess, outtakes probably of me saying words wrong and just stumbling through these foreign language words, and even just normal words. I've got a little bit of a Baltimore accent, so I know I drop my T's.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I've had the people on the other side of the mic saying, hey, I need you to say that phrase again because you sound like you're from Baltimore. Really bad.
I know. Baltimore does have a really unique accent, actually. I remember looking it up recently because I was really watching American Horror Story. And what's her name? Kathy Bates's character. I think she has a really thick Baltimore accent, and it just sounds so cool. I love the Baltimore accent. I really do.
Okay, I haven't heard that, and now I definitely need to check it out.
Yeah, go do it right now. No, it's fine.
Okay, bye.
But no. So did they have to have language people on tap to sort of discuss with you how to say things like that, or did you just have to sort of guess?
So we did a little bit of research beforehand with
Okay.
the different words, and we would try to find like local clips that I could listen to and try to just make my own voice sound like that.
Yeah.
We also, we've got studios all over the world with 2K, so I had, a couple of people that could help out. I think the Dutch one, my first recording was so bad that my Dutch PR friend messaged me laughing and saying, "Oh my God, you cannot do this. This word, it's so bad. You need to get back in there and re-record it." And I guess the
Oh,
second one was much better.
yeah. Oh, bless. Well, at least you had that person to sort of say.
Yeah, it's better before it gets out in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. But either way, though, I thought you sounded great, and I thought the
Thank you.
accent sounded fantastic. But yeah, getting back to sort of venturing into the 4X genre, I mean, when you are sort of learning about a genre like 4X, like, I mean, as QA, you have to like try and essentially like break the game, don't you? Like, there's just so many different things that you have to like sort of do so that you can better prepare the game for when it's released.
Right.
You don't have to give away any tricks of the trade, but how do you get into the mindset of like how people might break a game?
Right. So it's definitely very challenging with the game like Civilization because there are so many different ways to play it and just different combinations of civs and leaders on the map at a given time. So we at Firaxis, our internal QA is a little bit different than like a traditional QA team. They are more worried about giving feedback about the balance of the game, how fun it is, and of course, finding game-breaking bugs. But we've also got a great QA team with our publisher who does a lot of that. So we have different people on the team who already play the game very different ways. So Carl, who became somewhat famous or infamous as our lead QA tester, he's a very domination-focused player in multiplayer.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he's like a very good culture player. He was actually the one that taught me about that victory. And so, like, I know that, he plays the game this very specific way. We've got other people on the team who are like, okay, I don't even care about culture. I'm going to play straight domination. Like, I'm just a warmonger. And so just having people that approach the game very differently kind of helps with that.
Yeah.
I did do a thing, and I don't know actually if it was helpful or what, but it was a few years ago when I was the QA manager. I kind of created these like player archetypes. Like, okay, here, QA tester number 1, you are going to be this person that just bought the game. They've never played it before. You've never played it before. Try to learn the game. And this is their personality type. They're a warmonger. Okay, QA tester number 2, here is your archetype. And we kind of did that for a little bit, and it definitely found some very different, interesting situations.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just like approaching it not as you would as a player, but as someone different is kind of very helpful, especially with a game like this.
Yeah, I mean, like acting a role.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh my gosh, like I can't even imagine like a QA person playing something like The Sims like I did, where I just made a lot of babies and
Yep.
Yeah, but Civilization, yeah. I don't even know like how I probably would be world domination. That sounds like me. Because that's the thing, like I'm a bull in a china shop type of gamer where I just kind of throw it until it sticks. But like yeah, it's so fascinating as a manager or even just in the role of QA, how you have to figure out like how I mean it just sounds so foreign to play as someone else, you know?
Yeah, it was definitely an interesting exercise. Again, I don't know how successful it was, but it did help like some of our new people, especially like summer interns, kind of understand, okay, so I need to approach this as someone who isn't me. Because if you play the game the same way every day, you're going to find the same bugs and you're going to like have the same feedback. But if you kind of step out of your usual routine and try what other people would do, then you're going to uncover, different situations.
That is so cool. Yeah, that's really, really, really cool. I'm really fascinated by that. It's like, yeah, it's like acting a part. That's so cool.
Yeah, in a lot of ways. I mean, it's definitely a little bit of a getting into character acting. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to come in and I'm going to bring my Red Bull. Be like, all right, we're going to play some Civilization today. That'd be fun.
You can be the bro. That'll be your archetype when you're on my QA
I want to do that. Yeah. I'll be the bro. But yeah, so changing gears a bit, I can attest that like even now when I speak to other moms, even with games like Civilization where you think like, oh, it could be educational, you could learn a lot from it.
Yep.
Like parents just have this phobia about gaming. Like, oh my God, I would rather my child be like really into, I can't even think, like really into like Game of Thrones or something rather than have them play video games like that kind of way. The vibe I often get is that they just don't even understand how there could even be work in a field like gaming.
Right.
But it must have been so refreshing for you growing up because you said that your mom was actually quite supportive of you being in the gaming industry.
Yeah, I definitely lucked out. My mom, I know she was playing a lot of games when she was pregnant with me. She had Nintendo and she was playing Super Mario Brothers. So she often credits herself with my career because of that. But yeah, as I was growing up, I was playing games with her and then eventually on my own. And she would always tell me, there's a lot of game companies around Baltimore. You should look into this. Like, this could be a career thing if you want to try it. But I didn't quite understand, like, I don't know. I had trouble mixing the idea of video game with the actual person that made them. So I was like, oh no, that's not a real career. I'll go to school and be a writer because that's much more realistic, of course. So that was what I did. And that I actually ended up meeting someone through my Japanese class who was a game designer. And that was kind of how I found the industry. And she was, of course, over the moon about me kind of finding that and going back into that. And she's really excited about it. She doesn't always understand.
Yeah. That's so nice to have somebody who's just so supportive of that kind of thing. Because I don't know what would happen to me. Like, I mean, bless my parents. My parents always like supported my interest in games, but I was never sort of made aware that there could be a potential of like careers in video games. Like, it's still kind of like, oh my God, you can work on a video game. Like, it's still like that sort of like foreign like idea. So, I mean, yeah, I don't even like it. That's just so cool that she was so open-minded about that kind of thing.
Oh yeah. The first time I took her to Firaxis just to take a tour of the studio, like she was just in awe of like the place and the people, and she like wanted to watch people working on their art or their code, and it's like, let's not hover over the artists, Mom.
She's just so proud. I love it.
Yeah, she really loves it, and I'm really glad that we can kind of bond over that.
Yeah. So is that why like nowadays you do you have talks with like all girls schools to try and encourage them to say that actually like it's all right to like games and you can like realistically think about having a career in the games industry?
Oh yeah, for sure. That was something I didn't get when I was growing up. There were never any game developers that came to my school and said, hey, this is a real job you could get and you can pay your bills and you can like love it.
Yeah.
So I do try to do a lot of student outreach, and we have a lot of all girls schools around here. And I tend to focus more on them because they tend to get less representation from the industry. So just to, reach out to the girls and be like, hey, you know, don't be afraid. There's obviously a reputation that male-dominated careers have, but this is a great industry. There's a place for you, and, you can bring your talents to us, whether you're an artist, if you're into computer science and programming, or if you're, more into like the marketing side or even like composition of music.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think something that you said in there is also really, really like a hard thing to sort of accept. I think it's hard for a lot of people, but I think especially women being happy with what you're doing, like being happy in your career. I think so many times, like we just kind of have to grit and bear it. Like our role in society is whatever. Yeah. But like for video games, especially, it's like, no, you're actually allowed to enjoy what you do. Like,
oh yeah, no, it's definitely a labor of love. Like, there's a lot of stresses. It's a job, and making games is hard.
Yeah. Of course.
Right, but yeah, I love it. Like working with my teams and like these very passionate, excited people who have become, my friends. And to create this thing that we're very proud of and we enjoy working on and playing, it's really personally rewarding.
Yeah, 100%. So this one is more from a personal perspective, but one of the recent struggles you've had is coming from changing your name. It's something I never even really thought before, but I guess it's one of those things where you just sort of, you don't think about it until you're in that situation. Like, you can't just go back and ask developers, like, can you just change my name in the credits because I got divorced, or, that sort of thing. Like, you can't just do that. And obviously your married name is in the credits of a lot of the games that you worked on. I mean, how are you coping with that process?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of frustrating to have so many things that I'm very proud of tied to what was my married name. I mean, primarily because like a lot of that turbulence did come from, me being very happy with my career and him having some jealousy about that. So yeah, I recently decided to adopt kind of a professional name that I can carry with me forward regardless. And it's not my legal name, but Sarah Lynn is how I'm going to be referring to myself moving forward, regardless of, I don't know if I have 10 more marriages and 10 divorces. Hopefully not, because that's a lot of paperwork. But yeah, just kind of like taking back, I guess, a little bit of power and having a name that represents me that I can use moving forward that's just mine is kind of nice.
I think that's really really smart, and that's really, really like fascinating. Cause like, I mean, from my perspective, yeah, like I've always sort of wondered why like women always, there's a lot of women nowadays who want to keep their sort of, their maiden name when they get married and stuff. I mean, I just always sort of thought it was like a no-brainer. You take your husband's name and you go on, but then it doesn't really plan for the future. Like in some ways it is kind of, you kind of have to have a professional name, don't you?
Yeah, it's something that I had never really thought about until, I was starting to live it and realizing that I had so much of my career tied to a name that I would no longer have. It's still my legal name for now because I didn't want to deal with the paperwork. Yeah. Because it's a lot, changing all your credit cards, all of that.
Oh, it's such a pain in the butt. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I think it's funny because, like, this isn't necessarily a thing that, men have to think about. Because they're like, oh, I'm born with this name. It's my name my whole life.
Yeah.
And, I didn't have a lot of ties to my maiden name. So I was like, okay, I'm getting married. I'll change that. But I do have games that are also under my maiden name.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a weird situation that I wish I had thought about earlier in my career, but I didn't know that it was going to become like I was going to become a weird public figure.
I don't think anybody could have predicted how social media has I mean, maybe some people could. Some really, 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 really foreseeing people could have done. But like, you know, I don't know if a lot of people really foresaw how much social media was going to change the very fabric of like our society.
Yeah,
like, it's really intense.
It's a weird world.
It really is. But would you recommend then like women who are coming into the industry that they do have like a professional name for themselves, even in any industry, I guess?
I mean, I know that there's a lot of people that do it. I think that especially if you are going to pursue something that's very public, having something that basically becomes your brand seems like a good way to go. I wish I had done it sooner. So, you know, you have to do what's right for you. I wouldn't necessarily tell people it's a route you have to take. But the more women that I talk to about this that are a little bit older, the more I hear about like people having very similar internal struggles. Like, I'm getting married, but my whole career was tied to this name. If I change my name, like, could I lose some credit? Like I've had this conversation with medical professionals as well.
Yeah.
Like, okay, yeah. So when you go to conferences, people might not recognize you by your new name. So they would stick with their old one. So yeah, it's definitely a really weird, weird identity thing that I wish I'd thought about sooner, and I wish there was an easier way to solve it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, like, that's the thing. Visibility is like the first step.
Yeah. And there's, you know, I hadn't thought about this until I started doing research into it, but I know that sometimes women who are traveling with their children, if they have a different last name from their child, maybe they didn't take their husband's last name or whatever the situation is, you know, they can run into issues with like the airlines and stuff. And it's like, oh my God, that's really scary.
It really is. The struggle is real, and there's a lot of paperwork.
Yeah, so much paperwork.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, and thank you so much for sharing your story.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really love what you're doing and just getting out there and talking to all these different women in the industry. It's exciting.
Oh, thank you so much. That's it for this episode of She Plays Games. Thank you so much again to Sarah Lynn for coming on the show. And if you want to hear more from Sarah, you can follow her on Twitter at sbar713. Also, if you want more episodes of She Plays Games, please be sure to subscribe and follow me on iTunes, Spotify, and or YouTube by searching She Plays Games, and on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at ShePlaysPodcast. Our next episode will be on Monday, November 11th, and if you want to be on the show or want to nominate someone to come on the show, you can email me at ShePlaysPodcast@gmail.com. See you all next time on She Plays Games.